clients was at a big physics conference, the one that we all go to every year. Back then she was a postdoc looking for a job. And she texted me like, what am I supposed to be doing here again? Fair. The number one complaint that I get from scientists is, I hate networking and I don't know how to do it. And I agree. You hate networking because you don't know how to do it, and therefore you're doing it wrong. And I get it. Networking is my superpower, but even I was doing it wrong when I was a postdoc looking for a job. And that's not my fault, because no one ever taught me how to network at scientific conferences. And if that sounds like it could be you, let's address that problem now. In this video, we're gonna cover the top 5 networking mistakes that scientists make and how to avoid them so that you can enjoy networking. If we haven't met yet, I'm Kathy Charasia. I'm a physicist and a career coach for brilliant scientists who are at a career transition. My job is to help you cross that energy barrier by creating a strategy to reach your career goals so that you can have a scientific career and therefore a life that you love. But that's actually impossible without a robust professional network. And for the biologists in the back, what I mean by a robust network, it's essentially a quantitative measure of the strength and depth of a network. Because the number one differentiator of a successful scientific career is not your technical skills, whether that's in the laser lab or in tissue culture, your publication record, your millions in grants. It's one thing and one thing alone, and that is, say it with me now, your professional network. But we all make the same mistakes when it comes to building that network, and that's why I wrote the 3 protocol method for building a robust scientific network for my postdocs in the Career Lab curriculum. That's module 5. And if you're new here, I've pulled out protocol 1 for you. You can download it for free at kathy.science/networking. Mistake number 1, do not go to a conference without a strategy. I texted that client back like, why did you go? If you're a postdoc at a conference like, there's no one here who can help me get a job, then that's a clue that this could be you. And if it is you, it's time to take a step back and ask yourself, what's my career strategy? What conference you go to depends on why you're going to that conference in the first place. The purpose of going to a conference is a function of career stage. If you're a PhD student, you need a postdoc or you need to transition to industry. If you're a postdoc, you need a faculty position. And if you're a group leader, you need new ideas that are at the cutting edge of your field and strategic collaborations with good collaborators, as we discussed in last week's video. Before you say yes to an invited talk, ask yourself, does this conference fit into my career strategy? Not your plan, your strategy. And I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a sec, because one of my corporate clients came back to me and it's just like, Kathy, I need your feedback on my strategic plan. No, DNE does not exist. A strategy is not a plan, and a plan does not require a strategy. So if you're gonna transition into industry, do not come back to coaching with me saying things like, here's my strategic plan. That's not a real thing. Mistake number 2, stop working on your talk. Yeah, you heard that right. Do not make your slides first. After you've got your strategy and you're going to the right conference, the next thing you're gonna do is a literature search. Know exactly who's gonna be there and know their papers like the back of your hand. Why? A good conference talk takes about 90 minutes a slide. At 1 slide a minute, that's 30 hours to make a scientific talk that you're gonna give at a conference. That's a lot of your precious time to waste if you make it for the wrong audience and no one wants to work with you. By the time I clip that microphone receiver to the top of my boots, because of course women's jackets don't have pockets, and turn on my green Kensington laser pointer, I know exactly who is in that room, what they do, how they do it, and what they're likely to do next. I prepare for a conference talk like it's my job, because it is. Mistake number 3, do not dance with the one that brought you. For example, I was just at the Single Molecule GRC and I noticed this one lab that was always sitting together. I even saw them at the beach together. In fact, I never really saw them at the talks or the poster sessions. You're at a conference in Barcelona, which is not the same thing as being on vacation in Barcelona. I'm not saying don't hang out with your lab at all. I love my PhD lab and my postdoc lab, and I always plan to meet them for lunch or dinner. And if this sounds like you, make sure that you fill out the rule of thirds section in that protocol. I think it's under option 2 of step 3 in that protocol, but I'll link it down below for you and you can't miss it. And use that rule as a way to make sure you go to the conference dinners, the poster sessions, the talks, and use them as an opportunity to meet people who you don't know yet. And make sure you also follow my 99% rule. Again, I think it's in that same section, option 2 of step 3, but it's essentially never sit down at dinner with the same people twice. It's the 99% rule because there is one exception, and that is if I walk into a conference dinner and my husband has saved a seat for me next to him, and then of course I sit down with him. Professional tip, it's really difficult to follow this rule if you bring your family. Because I stay up till 4 a.m. hanging out with people, talking about their work, listening to their problems, and giving technical advice based on all of the papers that I read if I didn't make mistake number 2. This is called networking. It's one networking method out of the 4 options that I gave you in your protocol, and it's the one that I choose because of my scientific superpower. And if this sounds like you, and this is your preferred method as well, make sure you really nail parts A and C in step 1 of that networking protocol. And if you don't know what your scientific superpower is, you can find out at kathy.science/quiz and use that to choose a networking method that works for you. Mistake number 4, do not avoid talking to the scientists in your field who you respect and admire but haven't met yet. Talk to them about the things that you love about their work. And if you don't know what to say, that's a clue that you're making mistake number 2. And if this is you, go back to step 1 of the protocol and revisit part A. Study the field and make sure that you know their work and how your work fits into that context. For example, when I was a new PhD student, I just walked up to Antoine Benoyen and introduced myself, and he's still a mentor today. I met TJ Ha at my first conference ever, and I didn't even know who he was. And after he walked away to fill his plate from the buffet or something, Mark was like, "You realize that's TJ Ha." And when he came back, I was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that you were TJ Ha." And he was just like, "But if I wanted to be famous, I wouldn't have become a physicist. It's okay." And I just love that. In fact, I saw him at the Single Molecule GRC in Barcelona, and I reminded him of that when we were eating breakfast together. And it was just such a genius response. I know they're physicists, but they're such kind, generous, brilliant, fun people to talk to. Professional tip. Those leaders in the field that you feel intimidated by, they're my clients too, and I can tell you for sure that they love meeting people at conferences who know their work. Respect and attention for our work is one of the greatest compliments that a scientist can receive. Otherwise, we feel like we're just producing PDFs that nobody reads. And if you just can't do it, ask your postdoc advisor, your PhD advisor, or a mentor to introduce you. For example, I remember when Xiaowei Zhang gave a talk in London, and David, my first postdoc advisor, he introduced me to her because I was just too intimidated to walk up to her and introduce myself. Which brings me to mistake number 5. Do not use "I'm an introvert" as an excuse to go to bed early. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. My husband is also an introvert. We're physicists after all, and we married within the field. But when I was young, I was shy. Do not conflate those two things. They are not the same. Today I'm an introvert because I choose not to talk to people. I just rather not. But when I was young, I was shy because I could not talk to people. It wasn't a choice. I was paralyzed by fear because every time I opened my mouth, even if it was just to read aloud in class, the other kids would make fun of my accent, say things like, "Your skin is the color of shit," because children are monsters and I won't be having any. Those devastatingly painful experiences eroded the self-confidence and self-assurance that you need in order to talk to people. And if this sounds like you, build your self-confidence by practicing with other scientists under the guidance and feedback of a professional career coach who's been there too. That's exactly what I do with my clients in my networking workshop. And two, build your self-assurance by developing a solid search strategy. And if you are an introvert like me, take it easy when you get back from a conference. If you land after every conference like, ugh, I need a break from people, that's a clue that this could be you. In my first postdoc, I used to land at Heathrow and go straight to the lab, but I was always exhausted and grumpy and I could barely get any experiments done. And by my second postdoc, that first day back, I was smart enough to plan something low-key like pegulating slides that doesn't require much brain power and doesn't require interaction with other people. And if you're an extrovert who really gains energy from being around people, you might not need this step. If you hate networking, that's a clue that you might be making one of these mistakes. And if that's you, the good news is there's multiple ways to build a robust scientific professional network, so choose one that corresponds with your scientific superpower. Actually, one of my clients, brilliant computational physicist, is a numbers nerd type, and she was telling me, "But Kathy, I don't need to learn networking because I don't want to work with people anyway." And just in case this is you too, next week we're going to discuss how to work with people when you're a scientist.